This video is stupid.
That is not justice, and that is not liberty for our fellow Americans.
That is not justice and not liberty for our fellow Americans, and I won't stand for it. I think that's what he's gonna say.
I'm not gonna fucking stand for it.
Oh, I got him! I knew that was what he was gonna say. Come on. That was pretty good. People are so predictable. That's a prediction, by the way. Not saying I'm gonna die in the back of that car. That's an actual prediction. I paused it, and I was like, this is what he's gonna say. It's very, very intense. So, the video is entitled, "Does the George Floyd body cam footage change everything?" ? No. This is a false premise. Of course, it doesn't change everything. The transcript of the body cam footage already revealed most of the information that was in here. So the idea that this is like the thing that changes everything is nonsense. It's just you're not paying attention to the case. Again, this was never something that was going to change everything if you paid attention to the case. Unfortunately, a lot of conservatives, whether they're on the right side of this issue or the wrong side of this issue, did not read the transcript. Even Ben Shapiro, when I watched his video talking about the footage, said that he didn't know that there were two other people in the car with George Floyd at the time he was pulled over. Which is a little ridiculous because, again, that was in the transcript made available like a week before. This is a critically important case that we're changing policy on. The least you could do is some supplemental reading, but at least Ben does a show. You know, that's actually interesting. Like Hunter did a little mini documentary where he got like things incorrect about it, but I'm expecting disappointment from this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was going to say I'm not going to be honest. I'm being honest with you guys. I'm expecting disappointment. Let's see what we get. I'm also going to change the speed because 125. Also, Hunter considers himself a bit of a funny man. Are we going to expect some funnies in this video? Are you guys expecting any attempts at humor so far? Like, let me know what you guys think down in the comments or in the chat, however you want to phrase it, because this is both going on YouTube and Twitch, so I'm saying both to cover my bases. Are you expecting any funnies? All right, let's just play the video.
What's up, everybody? Hunter Avallone here. Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be much more on the serious side because...
Ooh, so no funnies. This is a serious video. Very serious. The Floyd case is super serious. Everybody take it seriously. We're all taking it serious. I actually do quite really take this seriously because it's an important case that's impacting all of us in this nation. Like, you know, my police department is being cut over this. So,
because today's video, once again, is focusing on George Floyd. More specifically, this new exclusive leaked body cam footage showing the horrific moments before George Floyd's murder.
Hunter's going with the murder. All right, it's the new horrific moments before his murder. I wonder if Hunter, because, you know, he's a free thinker. He's in the middle now, right? I wonder if Hunter, at any point, will assign any blame for his treatment to Floyd. Like, any blame whatsoever. 1% blame. How much different is this video going to be from the Young Turks video that we just watched? Will he bring up the drugs? Will he bring up the dispute in cause of death? Like, what is the angle that he's going to take on this? Is he going to bring up the gun to the head? Is he going to bring up them pulling a gun on Floyd? The least relevant fact. If you are going to take away anything from this, the least relevant fact from this is that they pulled the gun on him initially when they couldn't see his hands. Are we going to see Hunter focus on the gun just like the Young Turks video? Let me know your answer. Call your shots in the chat, in the comments. Let me know.
We have a little bit over 8 minutes of body cam footage that we're going to be looking over today. But first, I want to just...
8 minutes? You're not going to look at the body cam footage that's like 18 minutes?
Talk about this because I'm sure a lot of you have already seen the body cam footage, and there are plenty of people, specifically those on the right, claiming that this somehow changes everything.
No, Hunter. It's more information that mitigates what the initial video which was from the perspective of a person that only showed one part of the encounter after he was already on the ground. So this is probably where we're going to get the Baden autopsy reference.
When I watched the footage, and I have no idea what they're talking about, because this changes absolutely nothing. If anything, this footage just makes the cops look even more corrupted and crooked than we initially thought.
Even more corrupted and crooked than we initially thought. Corrupt is the word that you're looking for. What are you talking about? They played this by the book. Now we're going to get the gun thing.
And to be honest, anyone who's claiming that this footage somehow changes everything with the George Floyd narrative probably didn't give a fuck about George Floyd's murder in the first place.
Oh, virtue. Hunter has empathy, guys. They didn't care about his murder in the first place. Let's take a minute for a second. Most people didn't know George Floyd. His family are the people that are concerned about the death. And even people who had a very emotional reaction to what happened on the video, right? Which people saw that video, they had an emotional reaction. It's normal, it's standard, it's fine, right? That doesn't mean that they cared about this scenario. A lot of people cared about what were the potential implications of this scenario. I cared from like a practical legal point of view because I want to see the result of this case, and I care about the changes that have been happening in our country due to the narrative around this case. But Hunter didn't care because Hunter did his little video on it. He made his point. He got his virtue points, and he never dug into the case beyond the headlines in the beginning anyway. And he clearly was not paying attention to the footage, and he wasn't paying attention to the developments. Like I said, if this changes your perception of the incident, then fine. But you have to acknowledge that the written out transcript of this existed prior to this leak, and all of the information here in the footage was in the transcript. And that should have changed your perception because that was more overall context. So the idea that it makes the cops look more corrupted, again, the word is corrupt or more crooked, is absolute nonsense and objectively false on every possible way. You would have to be a buffoon to think that this makes the cops look worse. The worst version of the video was already out there. Let me say that again. The worst version of the video was already out there. That was after he was on the ground, where they caught none of the resistance, which, by the way, even then, the witnesses were saying, yeah, obviously Floyd resisted, but none of the resistance was out. That was the worst version of these events. Like, why are people... All right, enough with the Gunter stuff, guys.
And they would probably be finding any kind of excuse or any way to justify George Floyd's horrific, unjustified murder.
Here we go. So we're going full left. Like, nobody... If Floyd had high levels of intoxicants in his system, right? And theoretically, he could have died anyway. Then A, it's not a murder. B, that's not a justification. Again, I've said this time and time again. It's fine to hold two thoughts at the same time. One, we're not certain about cause of death. Even the autopsies, we're not certain about cause of death. Two, I am against neck holds. The NYPD, the New York Police Department, has banned neck holds, which they defined as any pressure put on the neck, since 1993. The reason they banned them is because you don't know who you're encountering when you're an officer, and you don't know who's specifically vulnerable to neck holds. The Minneapolis Police Department did not ban neck holds. In fact, the Minneapolis Police Department taught neck holds. They taught people to put them in that prone position that Floyd was put in the police academy. That's things that they learned from the police. That changes the context of it. Remember, Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder, which requires intent to kill. And the rest of them are charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder. If they're doing what the police taught them to do in a situation where you suspect excited delirium syndrome, then you're not intending to kill them. Is that like a hard concept for people to wrap their brain around? Like, if this is what you're taught to do, until the paramedics get there as like the safe thing to do, then when you do that, you can't also say you have intent to kill them. They had a chance based on the first video for third-degree murder, based on the idea that Chauvin might have put his knee on, well, when he put his knee on his neck, he might have been doing something that was so inherently dangerous that he should have known better. So he intended to put the knee on his neck, even if he didn't intend to kill him. But the left balked at third-degree murder. They put political pressure on politicians in Minnesota for them to up the charge. Right now, he's on second-degree murder. Chauvin will not be convicted of second-degree murder. Let me make that clear. He did not commit second-degree murder. It is arguable whether or not he committed any murder whatsoever. And this footage, by the way, which I wonder if Hunter's going to point to the fact that Floyd is saying that he's in breathing distress prior to the knee on his neck, shows that.
At the hands of our police. So let's go over this footage. I am giving you a warning. There is some disturbing and graphic content that will be shown. So proceed at your own risk. Proceed with caution. And let's start looking over this and talk about how this changes nothing.
I see your hands.
We're going to get the gun. We're going to, if he does the gun thing, Jesus Christ, man. You completely useless. A completely useless political commentator.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand. I'm sorry. Let me see your other hand. Both hands. Put your hands up right now.
So the officer is approaching George Floyd's vehicle because George Floyd is suspected of...
George Floyd gave them a counterfeit $20 bill. Can we stop pretending? The guy in the store at the beginning of this video, before Hunter started this video, pointed to George Floyd as the guy who gave him the bill. We got it. He was like, over there in that car, that's the guy. So let's not dance around this. So they have every right to stop him. It is 100% legitimate to stop him. George Floyd is high on drugs in this car right now, and he does not have his ID. So he is driving without a license. So that is 3 crimes. 3 crimes right now.
Allegedly using...
Oh, and by the way, you can see the officer's reflection in the car, right? The officer doesn't have his gun out yet. He has his flashlight. He's knocking on the door, on the window. Floyd starts reaching around the car and is not opening the door. That's why the gun comes out.
A counterfeit $20 bill. Nothing has been suggested that he is armed or dangerous in any way.
Hunter, he is not opening the door and his hands are not visible. That suggests there is the potential that he is armed and dangerous. Buffoon.
The cop approaches him, tells him to put his hands up, and within 22 seconds in,
Within 22 seconds in, we just saw, by the way, when in the officer's reflection, even though Hunter was obscuring it, we just saw both of his hands up. One had the flashlight on it. The other did not. It was just an empty hand. He only pulled the gun when instead of opening the door, Floyd started reaching around the car. That's what happened. And again, Floyd was not shot. Do I need to say that louder for the class? Floyd was not shot. He was not shot in this moment. He was not shot at any point during this encounter. Do we understand? Is everybody clear on that? The gun is not relevant. He was not shot. Everybody clear on that? We understand that? This is the irrelevant part. This is the headline. This is Hunter, the headline reader. Floyd was not shot. This is the headline everybody's been pointing out. Oh, he has the gun on the... He pulled the gun 22 seconds, whatever amount of seconds. Who cares? He was reaching for a gun. He drew the gun. When he realized that Floyd had no weapon on him, he put the gun away. So he used the gun to de-escalate the situation. That's what he's mad about right now. That's what Hunter's talking about right now. The headline. Embarrassing.
the cop is pulling his gun, pointing it at George Floyd's fucking head. So there are plenty of people...
First of all, I mean, I don't know how you get that from this angle, that he's pointing it at his head. It actually looks like he's pointing it near his chest. So that's just made up. But whatever, Hunter.
on the right now who are saying, well, George Floyd resisted arrest.
George Floyd did resist arrest, but that wasn't why he had the gun pointed at him, Hunter. He resisted arrest for about 13, 14, maybe 16 minutes after this, and there was no gun drawn. The reason that there's a gun drawn here is because Floyd is reaching around the car. There's actually other body cam footage from the other side of the car where they pulled over the other guy, and the other guy was way calmer and way more compliant, and he was also black. No gun pulled at him. How did that happen? How did the racism, the gun racism pointed over here, but not over there? Could it be, and I know this might be shocking, that Floyd's behavior was a contributing factor in the officer's response to that behavior? Could it be that cause comes before effect?
Maybe he's not so innocent after all.
Look, his hands are on the wheel.
Okay, well, let me ask you this right now. Do you think George Floyd maybe had a bit of a reason to be resisting arrest?
A reason to be resisting arrest? No, he had no reason to be resisting arrest. Are you kidding me? Do you think George Floyd had a reason to be resisting arrest? Like a justification is what you're saying. Like, because he had a reason to be resisting arrest. He didn't want to go to jail. He was high as a kite. He didn't have a license in a car. He just tried to pass a counterfeit $25 bill to buy cigarettes. He is in medical distress. Like, those are the reasons. None of those are justifications.
Certainly think George Floyd had a very justifiable reason to be anxious and uneasy.
Is he legitimately denying that he is drugged out right now? Are you kidding me? This is the Young Turks video. Why did I even watch the Young Turks video before this? Oh my God. No. He has not gone this far.
In this situation, considering he hasn't even been informed why he's being pulled over.
He knows why he's being pulled over. He was also already stopped. He wasn't pulled over. They approached him on foot.
He hasn't been told that he's suspected of any crime.
He hasn't been told he's suspected of any crime. Notice how he puts his hands on his head and all of a sudden the gun's not being pointed at him anymore. It's almost like compliance and not reaching for things will lead to a different response.
Yet, the cop just approaches him and pulls the fucking gun on him.
He pulled the gun on him because when he knocked on the car door with his flashlight, Floyd was reaching around inside the car. That's what happened. You are denying reality.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So I fail to see how this changes anything.
It's funny because even muted right now, George Floyd looks out of control. He looks completely drugged out. And Hunter's like, he just had a reason to resist arrest. I mean, it's just you know, he had a reason right there. Look, they pulled the gun on him based on his behavior.
Yet.
Step out and face away. Please don't shoot me, please, man. I'm not gonna shoot you. Step out and face away. I'm gonna get out of here, man. Please don't shoot me, man. I just lost my mom, man.
You notice how I said he just lost his mom right there? Remember Dave Chappelle's thing and Anna Kasparian's thing? His mom's been dead for years. Like, it's emotional that he was calling out to his mom before he died. But him saying that he just lost his mom here shows that A, she was on his mind, and B, he's higher than a kite. No commentary?
You've got to empathize with the guy.
You got to empathize. We need empathy. This is the Young Turks video. You got to have empathy for this guy. I mean, all he was doing was reaching around, making people nervous, and he just, you know, look. They responded to that, and then they took him out of the car based on the crime that he committed. Got to empathize with the guy. Enough fentanyl in his system to kill him. Got to have empathy, man.
Look at this. He's been arrested multiple times, and the cop just approached him and pointed a fucking gun at his head.
Oh, so emotional. Unbelievably emotional.
No wonder he's over here pleading for his life. No wonder he's
over here pleading for his life. He has a Nintendo Wii back there, by the way. By the pink light. Nintendo Wii.
begging not to be shot.
No wonder he's begging not to be shot. His crime was not begging not to be shot, Hunter. Are you kidding me? It's the fact that he's continually resisting arrest. That is a relevant part of the video. It's not the most relevant. One of the more relevant parts of the video is when he starts saying that he can't breathe, because it's well before Chauvin is even involved. This is complete buffoonery.
Right now.
Any commentary on the resisting arrest? The gun's away. They're cuffing him. Anything?
Keep in mind that, again, George Floyd has still not been informed why he's under arrest.
Keep in mind, he's not been informed. I mean, they're going to tell him right now, and he knows because he just committed the crime. But he's not been informed yet. That's the magic thing. When you think somebody's reaching for a gun, it's important to say, we're stopping you for suspicion of counterfeit. That's what it's important to say. It's not important to immediately reduce the risk of this person potentially reaching for a gun. It's important for you to say the specific charge so that they know that they're under arrest, so that they are reaching for a gun on the chance that they're under arrest, that they know for a fact, and then they reach for it.
He hasn't been told what he's been suspected of doing. The cop just approached him, pointed a gun at him, and now is roughing him up as they're putting him in.
Roughing him up. Shut your face. Ridiculous and absurd. He's resisting arrest. The words you were looking for is resisting arrest. Roughing him up. Nonsense. Jesus. There's body cam footage from the other side of this car. You can watch the other two people that were in the car and how they were dealt with as opposed to Floyd. There's a reason that they treated those other people who are of the same racial and ethnic origin as George Floyd completely differently from him, because they complied. That's what happened. God, it's ridiculous. Any commentary on how he's high out of his mind.
In cuffs while George Floyd pleads for his life. I feel like they could have confronted him and talked to him about it.
Oh, how that girl right there? She's not roughed it up. What happened? How did that happen? I feel like they could have talked it over with him. He's not saying anything that makes any sense, Hunter. How's that happening?
While he was still in the car, they didn't have to rip him out of the car and point a fucking gun at him.
Oh my God, both of those people, without being touched, moved to the wall. I know you've muted this part of the video. They've moved to the wall based on the officer probably saying something. I know he said something because I've seen this video, but he pointed for where they should move, and they moved. How did this happen? But with the racism on Floyd never came over to this side of the car. The driver's side of the car is the racism side. This side is the non-racism side. It can't be a difference in behavior. It can't be compliance is treated differently than resistance. What even is this? They're also not as visibly high as George Floyd is.
I hear you, but you're going to face the floor right now. Listen up.
Oh, we got a cut. We cut all the way over here to the car. You didn't think the part where they noted that he was foaming at the mouth was relevant? Excuse me, Hunter. You cut. Yes, the woman. First of all, the main and most important part of the story is the fact that the woman that claimed to be George Floyd's ex-girlfriend could not spell George Floyd. The Daily Mail actually edited that out of their video, but it's in the transcript, and that's the headline, by the way. Woman can't spell George. Also, man dies while in police custody. Headline, subheadline. But why did we cut here? No questions about the drugs in the system? Hunter? Hello? Can you hear me? You're in a little box. I'm in a little box. Can you hear what I'm saying? Anything?
Stop. I was anything. Everything y'all tell me to do, man. I'm not resisting, man.
Oh, he's saying he's not resisting. Are we going to ignore the fact that he is resisting?
I'm not. You can ask him. They know me, you know. God, man, I won't do nothing like that, y'all.
This is absolutely horrible.
What? Yeah, it's horrible that he's resisting arrest. What are you? Nothing's even happened to him yet. Like, do you not notice that he's out of control? You know what's really funny about this? Is that if somebody approached Hunter on the street, talking the way Floyd was talking, right, yelling and saying all this crazy stuff, Hunter would call the police on them. 100% of the time. 100 out of 100 times, Hunter would call the police on them. If Hunter did not have a charge in his phone, he would run into Starbucks, ask them to charge up his phone so he could call the police on this guy if he encountered him in real life. That's what we're dealing with here. This dude's like from Maryland. Like New York City, I encounter guys like this all the time. This dude's from Maryland. You think Hunter's comfortable around George Floyd?
I'm not the kind of guy.
Notice how the cops are just refusing to communicate with him. George Floyd.
Hunter, he's resisting arrest. They're refusing to communicate with him. He's not saying anything coherent. You know all those parts that you cut out where he wasn't saying anything that made any sense? They're trying to get him in the car. He's under arrest. Also, they already, I believe at this point in the video, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, they've already explained to him why he's being under arrest. So he's just talking nonsense. Any note of him being on drugs. We are 4 minutes in. This is a 12-minute video. We're over a third of the way in. Any note, one note of Floyd being high out of his mind on drugs, and it's being so obvious. Come on, Hunter.
Floyd is begging to talk to them because what he's trying to do, and he does explain this at some point in this video, that he has claustrophobia, so he's up.
He has claustrophobia, guys. George Floyd feels trapped whenever he's in a car. Pay no attention to the fact that George Floyd just got out of a car because he's claustrophobic inside a car. Again, what does that have to do with anything?
Unable to comfortably be in the back of the car. However, the police officers, of course, do not care, and they're refusing to listen.
Yeah, mute the audios and let the video play over the inconvenient parts. They don't care, and the police officers just refuse to listen. He's talking nonsense. He's said multiple times that he thought he was going to die. Are any of those going to make it into this video?
Hey, man. Don't leave me by myself, man. Please. I'm just claustrophobic. That's it.
Oh, you're still going in the car.
Third job, no, sir. I don't have nothing. Why y'all doing me like that? I was please cracking tuna for me and stuff, man. I am claustrophobic for real.
Right here, I'm claustrophobic. You hear him?
He said it before, Hunter. He also said crack the window for him. You know what the cops did? They cracked the window for him. Does Hunter think that if you commit a crime, that you're no longer under arrest at the moment you claim to be claustrophobic? Does Hunter not remember that they pulled him out of a car and now they are trying to put him in another car?
I honestly don't even think he's fucking resisting.
I honestly don't think he's resisting. I honestly don't think he's resisting. I honestly don't think you're capable of thought. Are you crazy? He's been resisting the whole time. Did you not see how they were trying to pat him down and he's twisting and turning? That's resisting arrest. Like, see, the Young Turks actually had, like, the Young Turks actually knew they were being dishonest, and they didn't show you clips of him resisting. Like, they showed you as little clips as humanly possible so that you could not see him resisting. Hunter's showing you him resisting. He's doing a live reaction to him watching him resisting, and he's saying, I don't even think he's resisting. Does that count as resisting arrest? Does resisting arrest, does resisting arrest really mean resisting arrest? Maybe it's one of those tricky legal terms, guys.
He's a little anxious, understandably.
A little anxious. He is high. The word you're looking for is high. This is the impact of drugs in his system. High. Hunter. High. Not hello. High. H-I-G-H.
Because he's had a gun pointed at him and he still doesn't know why he's being arrested.
Oh, he still doesn't know why he's being arrested. They've already told him. And he knows why he's being arrested because he did it. You skipped over the part where they were asking for his name and all that information, and he doesn't even have his driver's license on him while he's driving a car. And now he's claustrophobic getting into another car.
Arrested, but how is he even resisting?
He's resisting arrest. He's physically struggling. He just went to the ground. He's twisting and turning as the cops are just trying to check his pockets. He's resisting in every way humanly possible right now. How is he even resisting? He's literally telling them that he's going to fight them on the way in the car. They are saying, oh, claustrophobic? Fine, we'll crack the windows for you. Let's see if that's sufficient enough for Floyd.
Asking the officers to please stay with him. He's asking if there's any other way because he has claustrophobia. He has a hard time being in the back of the car.
I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic. I got anxiety. I don't want to do nothing.
See, he's trying to explain.
Man, I'm scared.
He's trying to explain that he has.
Oh, how is he even resisting? They're clearly trying to put him in the car. He's not going in the car. There must be some force, some counter force to the officers that is not letting Floyd get into the car while the officers are trying to put him into the car. But that force is not Floyd resisting because Hunter Avallone can't see him resisting.
Claustrophobia and anxiety.
Oh, are you going to take note of that? He just talked first about his breathing, right? Or not, that's not even the first one, but it's the first one in Hunter's video. And look at where we are. He's talking about his breathing. You're going to note that. This is one of the reasons why people are like, oh, there's this does give us more context for this event.
This is terrifying.
Is he even resisting? This is terrifying. This is terrifying. I'm terrified. Yeah, the video is difficult to watch, but this is literally like, what? Like, is Hunter on drugs? Is Hunter taking fentanyl? What's going on?
George Floyd sounds absolutely terrified. Rightfully fucking so.
Virtue, rightfully so. Are you screaming over the parts of him saying he can't breathe? Are you kidding me? He's saying he can't breathe. Do you not hear that? I want to lay on the ground. I want to lay on the ground. I want to lay on the ground. Did you hear any of that? Didn't hear him say he can't breathe. If he notes that Floyd says he can't breathe when he's on the ground, I'm going to lose my mind.
He's trying to cooperate. He's literally offering to let.
He's not trying to cooperate. He's doing the opposite of cooperation. Nobody can be this dumb. That it's not possible. You have to actually be able to see this. This is insane. You can't. It's the Young Turks at least didn't show the video. Like, they didn't show these parts of the video. They're trying to put him in the car. He's trying to get his way to the ground. That is not cooperation. They have different goals. Floyd has his own goal. They have another goal. They're trying to get Floyd to cooperate on their goal. Floyd is offering a different option. They are actually cooperating with Floyd now because they realize that this guy's going to continue to resist. You've cut out about 12 minutes straight of Floyd resisting arrest.
Lay on the fucking ground. So does this change everything as many conservatives?
Oh, you're literally not going to note that on your own video, he expressed being in breathing distress. I'm like, I can't even form words. It's so like, this video is so incoherent. I'm absorbing the lack of information coming off of it, and it's affecting my speech pattern. Yeah, like, what is not following the officer's orders, resisting arrest? Is that resisting? What is resisting the officer's orders, commands, and the physical pressure that they're putting on you considered resisting arrest? Is resisting? I'm looking at this video and I can't tell if he's resisting arrest, guys. Do you guys see the pink light in my background? That's how you know I'm a free thinker. What is going on? Unbelievable.
Conservatives are claiming, no, not even slightly. The only thing this might change is how the courts sentence Derek Chauvin.
How the court sentenced Derek Chauvin? He's not getting convicted of second-degree murder. Also, you know what'd be nice? If you're talking about Chauvin, you weren't even showing Chauvin video.
The officer who kneeled on George Floyd's neck.
Oh, he kneeled on his neck, guys. Kneeled on his neck. We didn't know that part.
But no, other than that, I don't think this body cam footage changes a single damn thing other than making the police officers look even more crooked and more corrupt.
More crooked and more corrupt. Haunter. The ghost of Hunter Avallone. Haunter. No, you're incorrect. Incorrect. Wrong. Not even close. This shows clearly, with Floyd's own words, that he was in breathing distress prior to being put on the ground, let alone before the knee was placed on his neck. This, in combination with the fentanyl in his system, which, by the way, high levels of fentanyl can restrict your breathing. Also, he cut out the part where Floyd said he had COVID, leads to reasonable doubt as to cause of death. If you can't reasonably, without doubt, establish cause of death, how are you going to establish the intent to kill that is required by the second-degree murder charge? This wouldn't affect the sentencing. This would affect the trial in that there's not going to be a conviction. Also, unless I see this part of the video where they talk about excited delirium syndrome, you've literally managed to gloss over. First of all, you showed us some of the unimportant parts of the video. You highlighted and focused on the most unimportant part of the video, and you've glossed over some of the important parts, but you've also hidden some other ones. So this just shows you to be dishonest and ignorant.
First, George Floyd was pulled over for allegedly using a counterfeit.
He used it.
$20 bill, and within 20 seconds of
he was resisting arrest, he was reaching around, he didn't open the car door. There was no gun pulled on the other two black people in the car that were connected because their behavior was different.
them pulling him over, they had a gun pointing at the guy's head. Then
Pointing at him from that angle, very disputable whether or not it was his head. Yes, I'm going to nitpick the hell out of this because this is the lazy Hunter Avallone video and he deserves it.
they didn't bother telling him why he was being arrested or what he was.
They literally did tell him why he was being arrested. They told him. They detained him because he presented himself as a threat initially, but they did tell him, you did not go over that part of the video. You are lying now. This is called lying, not telling the truth. Like Floyd did multiple times. He lied about basically everything. He lied to the officers a bunch of times. Floyd's friends lied to the officers a bunch of times. Floyd had foam around his mouth. They asked him, why does he have foam around his mouth? Is he on something? The answer was yes. Floyd said, no, I was hooping earlier, as in playing basketball. The man that was in jeans and a tank top was playing basketball earlier, and that's why he had foam at the mouth. That is called a lie. His friends lied. They said he was jumpy for some other odd reason. They were lying.
Was suspected of doing or any kind of crime they thought he might have committed.
No, they actually told him exactly. They told him that. Not in the part of the clip that you showed, but they did tell him that.
Nothing. They just pulled him out of his car and then tried to force them in the back of their car.
They try to put him in the back of the car. Yes. Why did they force him? Why did they try to force him? Because he was resisting.
Despite his claims that he has claustrophobia.
He was claustrophobic getting into a car. When they found him, he was in a car.
Extreme anxiety, and he even offered to get on.
Extreme anxiety. 6 minute, over halfway in. We're going to talk about the drugs yet? Hunter? Hello? Going to talk about the drugs? Ever? That he was high? Obviously high? Visibly high? Notably high? That this was probably the most determining factor in his erratic behavior? Hello? Mr. Avallone, paging Mr. Avallone. Are we going to talk about this? No?
The ground. He was cooperating.
They did not tell him to go on the ground. He was fighting his way out of the car. He was not cooperating. Let me say this clearly, not cooperating. When they say get in the car and you're resisting getting in the car so much so that they have to put you on the ground, that is not you cooperating. You are not telling the truth. Maybe you need to check the prescription on those glasses because you're not seeing this very clearly.
He's not resisting arrest.
He was resisting. Oh my God. Even in the videos you showed, he was clearly resisting arrest.
Throughout this footage, George Floyd even predicted his own death, claiming that if he got in the back of that car.
Oh my God. George Floyd is a prophet. He predicted his death. Just like he said he couldn't breathe prior to being put in the car because he knew he was in medical distress. He was in medical distress prior to the knee. He's not a prophet. He can't see the future. He was symptomatic prior to the knee being on his neck, which leads to reasonable doubt as to whether or not the knee was the cause of death. If you would have said, George Floyd on the street with a knee onto the neck while they were walking him over to the car, that would be him predicting his own death. He was describing how he felt throughout the encounter. That's what was happening. God, yeah. How can you hear this and try to recontextualize this wrong? Oh my God. Oh, it's like my brain is bleeding. Hunter, what is this?
Or he would probably die back there.
I'm not the kind of guy.
First of all, he didn't even die back there. Like, that's not a prediction, Hunter. That's not an accurate prediction. He said, imagine showing this clip. He's saying, I'm going to die. That's how he feels right now because he's already having the symptoms of all those drugs in his system. Hunter, this is called reasonable doubt.
Hey, man. I'm going to die here. I'm going to die, man.
And you know what? Even if George Floyd was completely resisting arrest, that still does.
He was resisting arrest. 100% undeniable.
Not give the police officers justification to murder the
The video helps us determine whether or not this was a murder. Obviously, resisting arrest while in handcuffs does not justify murder. Nobody is making that case. You are arguing against nobody. You are presenting ridiculous, absurd non-facts against an argument that does not exist.
the guy. That doesn't put the police officers in the position of the judge, the jury, and the executioner.
The judge, the jury, this is all emotion. Like, are you going to cry? Like, they weren't executing him. They were calling for an ambulance. They were holding him because their goal was to restrain him, because restraining him was incredibly difficult throughout all this footage because he was resisting arrest.
Sorry, it just doesn't.
Sorry, just doesn't. Doesn't make him judge, jury, and executioner, guys. You can't execute him. Nobody's saying that they could. 0 people are saying that. 0.
Even if he were resisting arrest,
He was resisting arrest. How is this even a question? Are you blind? Did you get the wrong prescription on your glasses? Are you deaf too? You have to also not be able to hear or see this video to know that, or believe the witnesses, because we knew he was resisting arrest immediately. What are you talking about?
Floyd's death still would be unjustified.
Still would be unjustified. Still would be unjustified. Nobody said that if the knee to the neck was the cause of death, it was justified.
But he was not resisting arrest.
Oh my God. He was resisting arrest. The videos that you showed show him resisting arrest. Buffoon. Buffoonery. Buffoon. How is this even happening? How can you watch that footage, watch a man resist arrest for 15 straight minutes from 2 different angles, watch the videotape, the surveillance videotape that shows him resisting arrest, and say he wasn't resisting arrest? Even the girl that was with him at one point is like, stop resisting. Even another pedestrian at another point is like, you're not going to win, just do what they say. Things that you would say to somebody, call me crazy, if you notice they were resisting arrest. What are you talking about? Absurd. What's the like to dislike ratio on this video? Yeah, that's not low enough. It's 2 to 1. It should be 100 on this side to 1. Ridiculous. Even if he was, which he was, crazy.
After I watched this footage, at first I thought maybe this does change something slightly. I thought maybe because George Floyd was really anxious and acting really sporadic, this would justify Derek Chauvin putting George Floyd.
What are you talking about? This is obviously like this is like a Hunter funny coming.
In that intense chokehold position, at least initially. But upon further review, I do not think that George.
They put him in the prone position because that is Minneapolis PD procedure when you suspect excited delirium syndrome. Also, it is very questionable how much force was on Floyd's neck. If you bother to read anything about this, the fact that Floyd had so much motion in his head usually indicates that Chauvin was not putting his full body weight on the man's neck. Also, thing that you also glossed over, Floyd was complaining about an inability to breathe, like shortness of breath, a symptom of high levels of fentanyl in his system, almost, some would say, deadly levels of fentanyl in his system, prior to them trying to put him in the car. You actually played video where he said that multiple times.
George Floyd's anxious and sporadic behavior justifies.
Him being hopped up on drugs. Mention the drugs. We are almost 8 minutes in. Are you not going to mention them?
Derek Chauvin, putting him in that kind of chokehold position that ended up killing him because
he was in a prone position. It's not a chokehold position.
The officers are the ones who created this hostile environment.
Insanity, thy name is Hunter Avallone. The officers created this hostile environment. No, they didn't. Rewatch that video, buddy.
By pointing a gun at the guy's damn head, 20 fucking...
Oh, wow, they pointed a gun at his head. The gun on his head actually initiated the choke on him before Chauvin even got there. Honestly, they both should be charged with second-degree murder, and the other two officers should be charged with aiding and abetting those guys, double second-degree murder, for pointing a gun at the head and putting your knee near his neck.
Seconds in. So if we're going to argue that Derek Chauvin putting George Floyd in that position initially may have been justified, no. By that logic, George Floyd's sporadic and anxious behavior is fully justified.
You're a buffoon. That is a complete nonsense. What are you talking about? We're not, first of all, nobody's saying it's, again, people are not saying it's smart what Chauvin did. But he's the police officer. He was trained to restrain somebody until the paramedics arrive when they suspect excited delirium syndrome. That hold was an approved hold by the Minneapolis PD. You are trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Let me explain this again. He's charged with second-degree murder. You are trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Derek Chauvin's knee to the neck is what killed him, and Derek Chauvin intended on killing him in that way. That is what the prosecution is trying to prove. That do you guys understand that? Floyd does not have a right to resist arrest. That is nonsense. The gun being pulled on Floyd, by the way, if you guys are confused, if you think it's a little ambiguous, if you think it's a question, is 100% justified based on Floyd's behavior. They didn't shoot Floyd. They didn't shoot him when he was handcuffed. That has nothing to do with his death whatsoever. They pulled the gun on him because he was not answering the door and he was reaching for the gun. The other people, he was reaching, and it was potentially him reaching for a gun. Let me make it clear, they did not find a gun in the car. But you don't know that when you're just showing up to the car. Everybody got that, right? The other two people that were with Floyd did not have guns pointed at them. They weren't even cuffed. They were put up against the wall because they complied voluntarily as Floyd resisted, and it took both officers to get him in the handcuffs. He then continued to resist. God, it's like brain-bleedingly stupid.
Because he had a gun pointed at him almost instantly. Just try to imagine how
ridiculous
you would react if you were pulled over by a police officer. They had a gun at your fucking head. You don't know why you're being pulled over.
He knows why he's being pulled over, because he committed a crime. If I had a gun pointed at my head, I would probably think twice about resisting. If I was reaching for something, I would probably not reach for it.
You haven't been told you've done anything wrong. You don't know what's going on, but you have a gun pointed at you.
He knows exactly what's going on. He just tried to buy cigarettes with a fake $20 bill. They rejected it, called the police on him. It's not that hard. He could see the store owner, potentially. We don't know, of course, but the store owner did point him out. He could potentially see the store owner pointing him out. He knows exactly what he did.
Your head. Do you really think that we would all just sit back and follow the law and say, "Hi, officer"?
Say hi, officer. No, Hunter, you wouldn't reach at the cop, you dunce. The idea that acting like a drug addict, right? Because Hunter's just not acknowledging that he was high. The idea that acting like a jumpy drug addict would be what you would do in that scenario, and that's like a logical thing to do, is absurd, ridiculous, and it's unbelievable that he's making this point. Like, it's an actual point, and it's not pure idiocy.
Sir, how are you? Here are both my hands. Would you like a cookie? As Americans...
Yeah, you would show... Oh my God. Stop. Here, he has both... You wouldn't put your hands up if somebody pointed a gun at you for reaching for something out of their view? Of course you would do that. That's the thing that you should do. That's the thing that Floyd did. In fact, when Floyd did put his hands on his head or on the steering wheel, that's when the gun went back in the holster. That's literally what happened in the video.
We have a right to trust and feel protected by our police officers. And honestly, George Floyd's
we have the right to trust and feel protected. You don't have the right to feel anything. You should trust and you should feel protected by your police officers. But again, like, police officers really respond to crimes more so than actually prevent them. So even that's dubious. But the idea that you have a right to feel a certain way is absurd.
Erratic and anxious behavior was entirely justified because
it was literally not justified 1%. It was 0% justified. Absurd, ridiculous buffoonery. He was on drugs and he was behaving like somebody that had taken too much drugs.
Because hindsight is 2020, the guy ended up dying during that arrest.
Did he get shot? No.
So first they point a gun at the guy, they pull him out of the car, they refuse.
First, the irrelevant thing.
To listen to him when he explains that he's claustrophobic and has bad anxiety. When he offers to get on the ground, they don't bother to listen to him. They shove him in the car. Allegedly, he's beaten in the back of the car at some point.
What are you talking about? Allegedly, you watched it on video. They weren't beating him. They brought him to the ground. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What the hell are you saying? It's on video. Allegedly, alleged by who? Who alleged this? Floyd is dead. Who alleged this? You alleged this. Hunter, you just alleged that. That's not alleged anywhere. There's no assault charges. What are you talking about? Who alleged that? Yeah, free thought, like freedom from thought. That's what Hunter Avallone thinks a free thinker is. That's made up. Also, he glossed over the fact that he was found in a car, and then he said he was claustrophobic getting into a car. He offered to lay on the ground. By the way, they complied with that request because he refused to get in the car, right? They complied with him saying, can you crack the window? They cracked the windows in the car for him. Like, they didn't. He was allegedly we watched it on video, Hunter. What the hell are you talking about? God. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. No. Bad.
Then he gets taken out of the car. Officer Derek Chauvin holds his knee on George Floyd.
You're skipping steps, buddy. You just skipped all the times he said he couldn't breathe before that.
His neck for nearly 10 minutes.
Nearly 10 minutes, nearly 9 minutes. Stop upgrading it. If it was as bad as you say, you wouldn't have to lie and misrepresent and allege that somebody is alleging that they brutalized him in the car. Like, Floyd is dead. Nobody's alleging that. You just made that up. We just watched it on video. He's resisting. They dragged him out of the car. Like, what?
3 minutes of which, after they were unable to find a pulse, and George Floyd dies. So, how does this footage change anything?
Well, it shows that Floyd was resisting arrest. It shows that Floyd was high on drugs initially. It shows that Floyd was expressing difficulty breathing and other symptoms prior to even being put in the car, let alone being taken out of the car, let alone having Floyd with the knee on his neck. It shows that the officers did consider his medical history, which is why they called an ambulance for him. It shows that one of the officers actually was recommending a different position, but Chauvin said, no, we should leave him in this position because we're trying to restrain him. And according to Minneapolis Police Department, that is the position you put somebody in, the prone position. And it shows that there was no intent to kill. So what does this video change about anything? And literally, if you didn't watch anything, like if you didn't follow up on the case, if you were ignorant like Hunter Avallone and you based all of your opinions on your emotional response to the first video, then this should change things for you. But if you actually followed the case, you knew this was coming. But it does change that. It makes the charge not fit. Second-degree murder was never going to fit this case. Third-degree murder was the highest you were going to get ever. And that was only if there were no body cams and there was just the video of the incident from the perspective of the pedestrian, because we never had an intent to kill. And this video communicates that lack of intent to kill in volumes. You are ignoring that.
How does this footage somehow destroy the narrative and make...
It literally destroys the narrative that idiots like you are pushing, that Floyd never resisted arrest. We can watch him resist arrest for 13 minutes. Like, it makes dumb people who want to push the narrative that Floyd never resisted arrest literally play footage of him resisting arrest and saying, I don't think he's resisting. I think I have a hole in my head. Am I brain dead? What's going on? Like, what are you talking about? Like, Jesus Christ.
All of the protests completely useless. It does.
No, the protests aren't useless. They're actually, the riots have actually changed policy in this country. The fact that they're based on this misconception, based on a very bad looking segment of what happened, is neither here nor there at that point. There's actually being policy changes implemented due to this. By the way, this is one of the reasons why we should have had the video out front, because if we're going to start changing our country based on an incident, we should know as much about it as humanly possible.
Doesn't. All this shows is that crooked fucking police officers exist.
Crooked and corrupt. Did I miss the part where they took his wallet and took his money? This is weird how this is like a crooked thing.
We need to have more trust in our police officers, and we cannot when they're going around murdering people like this.
When they're going around murdering people like this, we need to have more trust in our police officers. That's why I'm going to make up that they brutalized him when I showed footage of them not doing so. We need to have more trust in our police officers. That's why I'm not going to trust anything that they said on the tape or any of their actions on the video that actually clear them of the charges. Instead, I'm going to apply with my brain racist and premeditated intent to kill Floyd. Ridiculous.
The police officers are in the position of authority. It's up to them to...
Yeah, they're in the position of authority. So when you're not complying with them, you are resisting arrest. When you are under arrest and you are resisting that arrest, that is, in fact, resisting arrest. That's how that works, Hunter.
Set the context. When you point a gun at the guy's head within a couple seconds...
When you point a gun at the guy's head who is not opening the car door and he's reaching for possibly a gun, that is a reasonable response. When you have him cuffed and then you never draw the gun again, that is also a reasonable response. That was a perfectly legitimate drawing of the gun, and it mitigated potentially dangerous circumstances. Shut your face.
Seconds of asking to see his hands, you create the anxious, uneasy environment.
No, the drugs in his system created the anxious, uneasy, erratic behavior of Floyd.
That leads to people like George Floyd.
10 minutes in, no mention of the drugs. Fentanyl, meth, no mention of it.
Resisting arrest.
Oh, so he did resist arrest. Because I just had 10 minutes of you saying he didn't resist arrest. Now he did resist arrest, but the officers made him resist the arrest.
So fuck the police officers. Hopefully these fuckers get locked up for life. That's what they...
This is like the maximum ignorance of Hunter. They're not even facing life. The sentence for second-degree murder, off the top of my head, 40 years in jail. That's the highest end sentence. So they're not even facing life. I hope they get locked up for life. I haven't read anything. What is reading the English language?
They deserve. This was murder, plain and simple.
What degree of murder, Hunter?
Derek Chauvin not kneeled on George Floyd's neck.
This is in dispute. This is what the video changes. Are you... Oh my God. Stop.
George Floyd would still be alive today. And
what evidence do you have of that?
Whether George Floyd actually committed this crime or not.
Him putting up the forged $20 bill is not relevant to his behavior after the fact.
Is also irrelevant because passing a counterfeit $20 bill is not worthy of the death sentence.
He didn't get the death sentence. And it's arguable about whether or not he was killed. This video is stupid.
That is not justice, and that is not liberty for our fellow Americans.
That is not justice and not liberty for our fellow Americans. And I won't stand for it. I think that's what he's going to say.
I'm not going to fucking stand for it.
Oh, I got him! I knew that was what he was going to say. Come on. That was pretty good. People are so predictable. That's a prediction, by the way. Not saying I'm going to die in the back of that car. That's an actual prediction. I paused it, and I was like, this is what he's going to say. It's very, very intent. Whew. That was a good one.
So I don't care if George Floyd committed a crime. I don't care if George Floyd had drugs in his system.
Oh, you mentioned the drugs. Oh, you mentioned the drugs. You didn't mention that he was high, but you finally mentioned the drugs. If the drugs contributed to the cause of death, which even the state's autopsy acknowledges, that is extraordinarily relevant. We are 10 minutes and 42 seconds into the video. First of all, you're quoting the drugs as if they weren't there. We're 10 minutes and 42 seconds in the video, and you're finally touching upon something relevant.
George Floyd was murdered. It was unjustifiable.
That's what's in dispute, you moron.
And it was despicable, and these police officers need to be accountable. Every new piece of evidence that gets released to the public only further proves that
it literally does not. It proves the opposite. You don't know what evidence is. You don't know what charges mean. You don't know why it's important to charge people based on what they actually did and not how you feel. You don't know anything. Buffoon. Buffoon.
That what happened to George Floyd was horrific in every conceivable way. So
it was horrific. It's a horrific looking video. Again, you can have that emotional response, but that doesn't make it based on anything rooted in fact.
Sorry I got a little heated here, guys, but when I see someone who falls victim to just a blatant display of injustice,
blatant display of injustice, blatant display. I just get so sad and emotional. I have so much empathy, guys.
Breaks my heart, and it really does make me angry, and I think rightfully so. Anyway, please share this video, give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel for new content almost every day. I'll see you all soon, and let's continue to fight for justice for George Floyd. No justice, no peace.
No. 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 No, 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 no. No justice, no peace. God, so sad. I've managed to ignore everything about this. Hunter has actually learned less from new information than not having contact with that new information. Oh, God. No, 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 no. No. He said guns so many times. This was like the Young Turks video, except the Young Turks are actually savvy enough to not show you footage that directly contradicts what they're saying. I don't care if he had drugs in his system, I air quote like this, even though that's super relevant, a lethal concoction of drugs in his system, symptoms that started before the knee on his neck that are in line with having that much fentanyl in your system. I don't know. I'm so confused. No justice, no peace. Virtue. Virtue. Oh, okay. That's it. Definitely not subscribing to that. Yeah. 600,000 subscribers, guys. 600,000. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Yeah, people are saying it's like, well, I haven't refreshed it, so the dislikes might change, but whew, this is so bad. Everything about that was emotional, not rooted in fact. He didn't even bring up the autopsy, maybe because somebody sent him me making fun of him about that or commented that at him. But the autopsy that's supposedly definitive, that shows that Floyd was killed by the knee to the neck. Like, let me just play that to cap this little segment off. This is the strongest evidence. By the way, this won't even be presented. This probably won't be presented at trial. This is for the civil trial. But just check this out. All right, let me full screen that right there. Okay, mess that up.
The compressive pressure of the neck and back are not seen at autopsy because the pressure has been released by the time the body comes to the medical. Be seen. It can only be seen. Serious compressive pressure on the neck and back can only be seen while the pressure is being applied, or when, as in this instance, it is captured on video.
So, the biggest piece of evidence for cause of death can't be seen at autopsy. That's Michael Baden, right? That's the guy that Hunter referenced before in another video as outright proving cause of death was the knee to the neck. Even he says he doesn't have any scientific basis for that. And again, Baden does the autopsy for the family, not an independent autopsy. He does it for the family because he is trying to produce a result that assigns more fault to the city for the civil case. The idea that you can't diagnose, or the idea that you can diagnose asphyxiation at autopsy when you have no evidence of it at autopsy is ridiculous. This is why chances are we're not going to be found. He's never going to be found guilty of second-degree murder. He probably won't be found guilty of third-degree murder because, again, he did what he was supposed to in that circumstance. The knee to the neck, he should not have done. Let me make that clear. Even if that's procedure, should know a little bit better. But again, that's something that the Minneapolis PD really does need to catch up on. But they put him in the prone position. They called for an ambulance. They did this because he resisted arrest, and he expressed prior to the knee on the neck trouble breathing. Even said he had COVID before because he was saying that he was having trouble breathing. Again, this was before he was put in the car. This was while he was being put in the car. This was right after he was being put in the car, taken out of the car, before Chauvin put the knee on his neck. So he was in medical distress well prior to that. But it's okay. Hunter stands up for justice, guys. Justice. Justice. People are saying debate him. He would never debate me. 0% chance he would debate me. Because he would make a dumb point, and I would pull up something from the transcript or from the body cam footage, and it would be obvious, clear as day. So don't even waste your time. Hunter only debates people that he knows can get him a lot of views on his channel, and or people who can't debate, and or really small channels that he thinks can't debate. Where if he does poorly, nobody's going to see it really. But yeah, that was embarrassing. That's humiliating. These people really know nothing of what they speak of. Like I would read, I'm curious. Somebody has to get a chance to read the second-degree murder charge in Minneapolis to him and see if he thinks that fits. You know what I mean? Because there's no way you could read second-degree murder and think that fits. That doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. All right. But yeah. Pressure him to do that John Doyle debate. I don't really know John Doyle. Somebody's saying debate Jenk's nephew again. I don't know Jenk's nephew. Like that was based on circumstances, and he's banned me from his Twitch chat. Basically, he was watching one of my videos. I was responding in the chat, and he's like, "Well, come on and defend your position," and then I did because I'm not intimidated by that. Like all these regressives do the same thing. They're like, "Oh, get in the Discord, come on," and I pop on and I do it because I'm not scared. I'm not scared without preparation. I'm not scared to go on unprompted because none of these people can stand up to scrutiny. Like all they have is emotional appeal disguised as logical appeals. That's it.